Have you ever been in a moment where someone, in front of everyone, throws a sly insult your way? Maybe it was a sarcastic jab disguised as a joke or a condescending remark meant to put you in your place. It catches you off guard. The people around you laugh, or worse, they just stay silent. And for a split second, you feel the sting of humiliation. Your mind races. Should you strike back? Should you pretend it didn't bother you? Should you laugh along, even when it's at your own expense? Moments like these test you. Not just your confidence, but your ability to command respect. And here's the truth most people never realize. Your response in that moment doesn't just define how others see you. It defines how you see yourself. Think about a lion. A lion doesn't react to every barking dog. It doesn't flinch at petty threats. It carries itself with quiet strength, knowing its power doesn't come from reacting, but from presence. That's the kind of control you need to master. Because respect isn't something you beg for. It's something you command by the way you carry yourself. People who try to undermine you aren't always your enemies. Sometimes they're just opportunists looking for an easy target. They poke, they prod, they test the waters, seeing how much they can get away with. And if they sense weakness, they push further. It happens everywhere, at work, in social groups, even within families. The moment you show them that their words can shake you, they win. But the moment you refuse to be moved, that's when everything shifts. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's the foundation of Stoic wisdom. You don't control what others say or do, but you control whether their words hold any weight. You control whether you let their petty attempts define your worth. The key is not to fight for respect, but to embody it. And that starts with a mindset shift. When someone tries to diminish you, you don't need to retaliate. You don't need to outwit them with clever comebacks. What you need is an unshakable presence that makes it clear. You are not someone to be toyed with. Imagine standing in the middle of a storm, wind howling, rain crashing down. A weak foundation crumbles. But a mountain? It doesn't move. It remains firm, unbothered, unmoved. That's how you need to be when disrespect comes your way. The more unshaken you are, the more they realize their words have no power. And that's what earns you respect. But here's where most people get it wrong. They think staying silent means being weak. They think walking away means surrendering. The truth is, silence, when used correctly, is power. It forces the other person to sit with their own insecurity. It strips them of the reaction they were hoping for. And in that space, they begin to realize they never had power over you to begin with. Now, it's time to dive deep, to break down exactly how to carry yourself in these moments, to learn the strategies that make you untouchable. No more second-guessing. No more letting others dictate your worth. You are about to master the art of commanding respect, not with force, not with anger, but with absolute, unshakable control. Let's begin. 1. Set the tone right, or get left behind. First impressions are like wet cement. Once they set, they're hard to reshape. People size you up in seconds, not minutes. It's not just about what you say, but how you carry yourself. Your posture, your energy, the way you shake hands. All of it sends silent signals that scream either confidence or hesitation. Imagine this. You're at an event. Someone important walks in, scanning the room. They make their way toward you, extend their hand. But instead of standing, you stay seated, glancing up briefly before offering a limp handshake. No malice, no disrespect, just a habit. Yet, In that moment, you've sent a message. Not one of strength, not one of presence, but one of indifference. And in return, they mirror that energy right back at you. Now, let's flip the script. Same scenario, but this time you rise. You meet their handshake with equal firmness, your eyes steady, your presence unshaken. No words have been exchanged, yet respect is already in motion. Because how you present yourself is how you teach others to treat you. Marcus Aurelius said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." But here's the twist. It's not just your thoughts. It's your actions, your presence, your energy. Every interaction is a brushstroke painting the picture of who you are. And whether you realize it or not, people are always watching, always deciding how to categorize you. You ever wonder why some people seem to command attention effortlessly? It's not magic. It's not luck. It's the small things. The way they shake hands, the way they hold eye contact, the way they acknowledge everyone, from the CEO to the janitor, with the same level of presence. I remember being at a seminar where networking was key. One guy stood out, not because he was the loudest, not because he had the best business pitch, but because he made everyone feel like they mattered. Whether it was greeting a top executive or thanking the waiter refilling his coffee, he stood up, engaged fully, and made them feel seen. People naturally gravitated toward him, not because of what he said, but because of how he made them feel. Contrast that with another attendee. Brilliant guy, full of knowledge. But he never stood when introduced. He greeted people with a nod, barely looking up from his phone. Did he mean to come off as uninterested? Probably not. But perception isn't about intent. It's about impact. And his impact? He faded into the background, not because he lacked value, but because he never projected it. Epictetus once said, "You are what you repeatedly do." Respect isn't demanded, it's cultivated, and it starts with how you show up. Now, some might argue, does it really matter? Does standing up for a handshake or making eye contact actually change anything? The answer is simple. Try ignoring a king. Try brushing off someone who carries themselves like they belong in every room they enter. You can't, because presence speaks before words ever do. Stoicism teaches us to control what we can. You can't control what others think of you, but you can control what you give them to think about. You can control your posture, your eye contact, your attention to detail. And over time, those little things add up. They form an unshakable presence, one that demands respect without ever having to ask for it. So the next time you meet someone, rise to the moment, literally. Stand tall, meet their eyes, and let your energy do the talking. Because first impressions aren't just about appearances. They are about setting the tone. And if you don't set it right, someone else will do it for you. 2. Command the room without saying a word. There's a certain kind of frustration that comes with being interrupted. You're in the middle of making a point, laying out your thoughts, and suddenly, someone cuts in, talking over you as if your words were background noise. It's tempting to snap back, to raise your voice, to reclaim the space they just took. But here's the truth. Power isn't in how loud you can be. It's in how unshaken you remain. Seneca once said, "A man is as unhappy as he has convinced himself he is." The same applies to anger. You're only as disrespected as you allow yourself to feel. The moment someone interrupts you, you have two choices: react emotionally and feed into their energy, or hold your ground in a way that speaks volumes without saying much at all. Next time it happens, don't rush to reclaim the conversation. Instead, pause. Turn toward them with a steady, unblinking gaze. No frown, no forced smile. just the kind of silence that makes people uncomfortable enough to rethink their actions. That quiet moment does more than any verbal correction could. It forces them to acknowledge what they just did. It shifts the dynamic from chaos to control. Your control. Picture a seasoned leader in a meeting. He's speaking when an impatient colleague interrupts. Does he rush to out-talk them? Number. He simply stops mid-sentence, looks at them with quiet authority, and waits. No hostility, no anger, just presence. And that's what earns respect. Not volume, but restraint. I once found myself in a situation like this at a family gathering. I was telling a story when a relative, eager to share their own, spoke over me. I could have talked louder or cut them off, but instead, I let silence do the work. I stopped, met their eyes, and waited. It took only a few seconds before they hesitated, realizing their mistake. With an awkward chuckle, they gestured for me to continue. No argument, no tension, just a subtle shift in power. This isn't about embarrassing anyone. It's about establishing a standard. When you allow interruptions to go unchecked, you teach people it's acceptable. But when you reclaim your space with quiet confidence, you send a different message. I am worth listening to. Epictetus reminds us, if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. The real win isn't proving a point, it's proving that you won't be rattled. After your pause, resume your words with calm certainty. A simple, as I was saying, reaffirms your presence without hostility. Respect isn't demanded. It's commanded through how you carry yourself. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. 3. Turn the joke on them without saying a word. There's a fine line between playful teasing and a joke meant to humiliate. You know the kind, the one that makes everyone laugh except you. The one where you're put on display, while the person telling it enjoys the attention. In that moment, it's easy to feel the sting of embarrassment, to want to fire back with a sharper insult or shrink into silence. But here's the thing. The way you react determines everything. If you get angry, you look insecure. If you laugh along, you encourage them. But if you stay completely unshaken, you shift the entire power dynamic. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's the secret to handling these moments. You don't need to control them. You only need to control yourself. I remember sitting at a dinner with friends when someone decided to bring up an embarrassing story from years ago. The laughter erupted around me. I could feel the eyes on me, waiting to see how I'd react. I had two choices: get defensive and try to prove myself, or lean into the moment with absolute calm. Instead of reacting, I smiled slightly and said, "What was that?" I didn't quite catch it. Could you repeat the story? That one question changed everything. The energy shifted. Suddenly, the joke had lost its momentum. The person hesitated, realizing that what had seemed funny in the moment now felt forced. When they awkwardly repeated the story, it didn't land the same way. The group sensed it. The laughter faded. The moment passed, and just like that, I had reclaimed control. Not by fighting back, but by refusing to be rattled. Why does this work? Because humor relies on speed and surprise. The moment you force someone to repeat a joke, it loses both. The laughter that once gave them confidence starts to slip away, and suddenly, they're the ones under the spotlight. And here's the best part. You never had to lower yourself to their level. Now, you might wonder, but what if they double down? What if they keep trying to embarrass me? That's when you use another Stoic tactic: silence. Epictetus reminds us, If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. You don't owe them a reaction. If they try again, simply hold their gaze with a neutral expression. Let the silence stretch, and then move on like their words were never worth your attention. Few things are more unnerving than someone who refuses to be affected. This isn't about proving who's smarter or winning some verbal battle. It's about showing that your self-worth doesn't depend on the opinions of others. When you carry yourself with quiet confidence, people notice. They see that you're someone who can't be easily shaken, someone who doesn't get thrown off by small provocations. And in the long run, that earns far more respect than any comeback ever could. So next time someone tries to put you in the spotlight for a cheap laugh, don't get mad. Don't shrink. Just smile, ask them to repeat it, and watch how quickly the joke turns on them. 4. Flip the script. The art of disarming provocation. There's a special kind of satisfaction some people get from pushing your buttons. They drop a sharp comment, waiting for you to explode, or throw a passive-aggressive jab, just to see if they can knock you off balance. And the truth is, most people fall for it. They react. They get defensive. They let the instigator dictate their emotions. But what if you didn't play their game? What if, instead of taking the bait, you flipped the entire conversation on its head? Imagine this. You're at a gathering, and someone makes a public remark about your career struggles, something they know will sting. Maybe they say, "So, still looking for a job? Must be tough." It's meant to embarrass you, to corner you into an emotional reaction. But instead of getting defensive or explaining yourself, you pause, take a breath, and say, "Hey, does anyone know a good bakery around here? I was thinking of picking up something nice for the weekend." Just like that, the energy shifts. The person who tried to embarrass you suddenly looks caught off guard. The conversation, which was supposed to revolve around your struggles, is now about something completely different. Some people start recommending bakeries. Others talk about their favorite desserts. And the moment passes without you ever engaging in the negativity. Why does this work? Because provocation is like a fire. It needs oxygen to keep burning. Your reaction is that oxygen. The more you feed into it, the stronger it grows. But if you simply refuse to engage, if you starve the fire of attention, it dies out on its own. This is the essence of Stoicism. Understanding that while you can't control what others say, you can always control how you respond. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." And that's exactly what you're doing here. You're choosing to stay in control, to dictate the flow of the conversation, rather than letting someone else control your emotions. Now you might wonder, but isn't this just avoiding the problem? What if they push harder? That's the beauty of this strategy. It's not avoidance, it's redirection. You're not ignoring the person, you're shifting the entire dynamic in a way that doesn't allow them to control you. If they try again, simply repeat the technique. Keep your tone neutral, your demeanor relaxed, and watch how quickly they lose interest. This approach also sends a powerful message to the people around you. When they see you handle provocation with effortless composure, they recognize your strength. People respect those who can stay calm under pressure, who don't let small minds pull them into petty conflicts. And more importantly, you start respecting yourself more because you're proving that your emotions belong to you, not to anyone else. Marcus Aurelius once reminded us, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. That's what this technique teaches you. Every time you choose calm over chaos, every time you steer a conversation away from negativity, you reinforce that inner power. So next time someone tries to throw you off balance with a provocative comment, don't let them win. Don't fight. Don't defend. Don't explain. Just smile, ask an unrelated question, and watch as the moment slips right out of their hands. You'll walk away with your dignity intact, and they'll be left wondering why they ever thought they could get under your skin. 5. When respect runs out, so should you. There comes a time when staying in a place that no longer values you does more harm than walking away. But leaving isn't always easy. You hesitate, hoping things will change. You try harder, believing effort can fix what's broken. You tell yourself that maybe, just maybe, the respect you deserve is just around the corner. But when that corner never comes, you have to ask yourself, why am I still here? Stoicism teaches that respect is never begged for. It's either given freely or it isn't worth having. Walking away isn't about proving a point to others. It's about proving something to yourself, that you refuse to stay in a place where your worth is ignored. A friend of mine, Sarah, learned this the hard way. She was a talented, creative professional, pouring everything into her work. But instead of being recognized, her manager constantly undermined her. Every meeting was the same. Her ideas dismissed, her contributions overlooked. She kept telling herself that if she worked harder, she'd earn their respect. But respect isn't earned through suffering. It's granted by those willing to give it. Then came the breaking point. Another meeting, another dismissal. But this time, Sarah didn't argue. She didn't explain. She calmly closed her laptop, stood up, and said, "I think it's time I put my energy where it's valued." And she walked away. That same day, she resigned, not out of anger, but as an act of self-respect. A few months later, she found a leadership role at another company, one where her talents were not just accepted, but celebrated. She didn't just leave a toxic workplace. She walked into the life she deserved. This is what walking away really means. It's not about quitting. It's about choosing. Choosing where to invest your energy. Choosing not to let others define your worth. Choosing yourself. As Marcus Aurelius put it, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. You might wonder, but what if leaving isn't an option right now? That's fair. Not every exit happens overnight. But even if you can't leave immediately, you can start making choices that move you toward an environment that respects you. Whether it's setting boundaries, cutting off toxic relationships, or preparing for better opportunities. The decision to walk away begins long before you take the first step. And what if they don't want you to leave? What if they suddenly start valuing you the moment they sense you're slipping away? That's the irony. People often realize your worth once you stop waiting for them to see it. But by then, it's not about them anymore. It's about you. Staying where you're disrespected is like watering a dead plant, hoping it'll bloom. Some situations won't change, no matter how much effort you put in. And when that's the case, the strongest move isn't to keep fighting. It's to leave with your dignity intact. As the saying goes, if they can't see your value, don't waste time proving it. So if you ever find yourself questioning whether you should walk away, ask yourself this: if I stay, am I becoming more of who I want to be or less? Your peace, your self-worth, and your respect should never be negotiable. If something diminishes you, step away, not to make a scene, not to get revenge, but because you owe it to yourself to be in a place that reflects your true value. If this message resonated with you, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Drop a like, and if you're ready to step into your power, comment below. I refuse to settle. Let this be your first act of self-respect. I'll see you in the next one.